On January 21st, 1981, the first stainless steel DeLorean DMC-12 rolled off the assembly line in Dunmurry, Northern Ireland. With its gull-wing doors, brushed stainless steel body, and futuristic design by Giorgetto Giugiaro, it looked like it had driven straight out of science fiction. For the 2,500 workers who built it, many of whom had never held a job before, the car represented hope for a better future in one of Europe's worst unemployment black spots. 21 months later, in October 1982, it was over. The factory closed, the workers went home, and John Delorean was arrested in an FBI sting operation, caught on videotape negotiating a cocaine deal. The car would achieve immortality 3 years later when it starred as a time machine in Back to the Future. But for the people who built it, the dream didn't just die. It was ripped away, leaving economic devastation and broken promises in its wake. 1. John Delorean and the Belfast Deal. John Zachary Delorean was everything the automotive industry wasn't supposed to be. At General Motors in the 1960s, he was the youngest division head in company history, the creative force behind the Pontiac GTO. But Delorean chafed under GM's corporate bureaucracy. In 1973, after being passed over for the GM presidency, he walked away to pursue his vision, a revolutionary sports car that would challenge everything the industry took for granted. By 1975, he had founded the DeLorean Motor Company. The DMC-12 would feature a stainless steel body that wouldn't rust, gull-wing doors, and advanced safety features. Italian designer Giorgetto Giugiaro created a wedge-shaped body that looked impossibly futuristic. The chassis would be developed by Lotus founder Colin Chapman. Delorean envisioned selling it for $12,000, hence the 12 designation. There was one problem. He needed somewhere to build it, and he needed far more money than he had. In 1978, Northern Ireland was a war zone. The Troubles had killed thousands and devastated the economy. West Belfast unemployment reached 40 to 50%. Young men without jobs were being recruited by paramilitary organizations. The British government, desperate to reduce violence by creating employment, was looking for any credible investment opportunity. Delorean had shopped his project worldwide. The Republic of Ireland rejected him. He was close to signing with Puerto Rico when Northern Ireland made an offer he couldn't refuse. Approximately $120 million in government funding out of $200 million needed for startup costs. Delorean left the Puerto Ricans waiting in a hotel and caught the next plane to Belfast. Construction on the factory began in October 1978 at Dunmurry, positioned deliberately between Catholic and Protestant areas. The workforce would be drawn equally from both communities, with separate gates for each. It was social engineering on a massive scale, the British government betting that jobs could heal sectarian wounds. For West Belfast residents, the Delorean factory represented something they had never experienced: hope. When hiring began, thousands lined up to apply. Most had no manufacturing experience. Many had never held any job, but they were paid premium wages and given the best equipment available. 2. The production disaster. The problem started immediately. The workforce was completely inexperienced. They were building a technologically advanced sports car using untested manufacturing processes with designs that kept changing. The first 400 cars that came off the line in early 1981 were, by the workers' own admission, horrible. Panel gaps were variable. Alternators couldn't keep up with electrical demands. The gas struts that pushed the heavy gull-wing doors upward failed constantly. One worker described the quality as comparable to a Trabant, the notoriously terrible East German car. Delorean had to establish quality assurance centers in California, New Jersey, and Michigan. Cars shipped from Belfast went directly to these centers, where technicians essentially rebuilt them before delivery to dealerships. It was expensive, time-consuming, and embarrassing. By 1982, the quality issues had largely been resolved. The workers had learned their craft and were producing decent cars. But by then, the financial problems that would kill the company were already spiraling out of control. 3. The market failure. The DMC-12 was supposed to cost $12,000. By the time production began, economic reality and cost overruns had pushed the price to $25,000, about $88,000 in today's money. For that premium price, buyers got a car that automotive journalists consistently described as underpowered. Road and Track magazine summed it up. It's not a barn burner, with a 0 to 60 miles per hour time of 10.5 seconds. Frankly, that's not quick for a sports/GT car in this price category. The French-designed PRV V6 engine produced only 130 horsepower. The stainless steel body looked stunning, but showed every fingerprint and couldn't be painted. The timing couldn't have been worse. The DMC-12 hit the market just as the 1980 to 82 recession hammered luxury car sales. By the end of 1981, the Dunmurry factory had produced 7,500 cars, but had only managed to sell 3,000. Hundreds more sat on docks in Long Beach, California, unsold. In March 1982, DeLorean sent telegrams to all 343 dealerships requesting each buy 6 cars to help save the company. Not a single dealer responded. By the end of May 1982, production at the factory shut down completely. Behind the scenes, the financial situation was even worse. John Delorean had been living like a king while his company bled money. Personal employees were on the DMC payroll, earning salaries as high as $75,000. Sports cars were delivered to his wife as benchmarking vehicles. While his company struggled with receivership, Delorean flew 7 directors from Belfast to New York on the Concorde at a cost of £15,000. He owned a California ranch, a New Jersey estate, and a Manhattan apartment with 7.5 bathrooms. In February 1982, the company was placed into receivership. The British government set an October deadline, raised the funds to keep the factory open, with Delorean required to personally invest at least half. Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government, skeptical from the start, finally pulled the plug. 4. The arrest. As the October deadline approached, John Delorean became entangled in one final scheme. On October 19, 1982, FBI agents arrested him in a hotel room at the Los Angeles airport. Videotape showed Delorean examining a suitcase containing 55 pounds of cocaine, allegedly worth $24 million, and saying, "It's better than gold." The FBI claimed Delorean was attempting to finance a drug trafficking ring to save his failing company. Delorean's defense was entrapment. In 1984, a jury agreed and acquitted him. But for his company, it was too late. On October 26, 1982, just a week after Delorean's arrest, the DeLorean Motor Company filed for bankruptcy. The Dunmurry factory officially closed after approximately 9,000 cars had been built in less than 2 years. 5. The workers left behind. For the workers at Dunmurry, the collapse was devastating. In February 1982, 1,100 workers were laid off outright. Another 1,500 were put on short time. As one employee told RTE News, "We'll just have to see how it works out today. Hopefully we'll get some sort of verdict tomorrow. After that, who knows? The dole again." When the final closure came in October, 2,500 people lost their jobs almost overnight. Many had spent the happiest days of their working lives at DeLorean. For some, in one of Europe's worst unemployment blackspots, they had been the only working days of their lives. They had believed in John Delorean's vision. They had worked to overcome their inexperience and build quality cars. They had proven Belfast workers could compete with anyone. 6. And then it was gone. The British government had invested more than £100 million. Much of that money had been squandered through mismanagement and what many believed was outright embezzlement. In a final act of spite, the UK government seized £990,000 from the DeLorean pension fund, money that should have gone to the Belfast employees who had lost their jobs. Just weeks after DeLorean closed, the British government granted £47.6 million to Harland and Wolff shipyards, a majority Protestant business. Workers at DeLorean accused the government of industrial genocide and claimed they had been treated differently than Protestant-owned businesses. 6. Back to the Future fame. In 1985, 3 years after the factory closed, Back to the Future premiered. The DeLorean DMC-12, chosen because director Robert Zemeckis thought it looked like an alien spaceship, became an instant cultural icon. Suddenly, the failed car from the bankrupt company was one of the most famous automobiles in the world. Today, approximately 6,500 DeLoreans still exist, carefully maintained by devoted enthusiasts. The DeLorean Owners Association hosts events, including the International DeLorean Eurofest at the original factory site in Belfast. Prices for well-maintained examples range from $30,000 to over $100,000. The car achieved the immortality that John Delorean had always craved, but the workers who built it, they returned to unemployment in an economy that had no use for them. The factory site in Dunmurry is now occupied by about 20 different businesses. The old test track still exists, occasionally accessible during reunion events. But there's no memorial to the workers, no recognition of what they accomplished. 7. The true cost. John Delorean died in 2005 in New Jersey. His reputation never recovered. The dark truth about the DeLorean DMC-12 is that it represents two very different stories. For car enthusiasts and Back to the Future fans, it's a symbol of bold vision and 1980s optimism, a beautiful failure that achieved cultural immortality. But for the 2,500 workers in Belfast who believed in the dream, it's a story of exploitation and abandonment. They were promised jobs, stability, and a future. What they got was less than 2 years of employment before being thrown back into unemployment. They built one of the most state-of-the-art car factories in the world and produced 9,000 cars, a genuine achievement under impossible circumstances. John Delorean told reporters when he opened the factory, "Originally we came up here as businessmen doing a business deal. Now all of us have become so infected with the absolute mandatory requirement that this project be successful, that we're really more interested in making it successful from the standpoint of the people than we are from any personal standpoint. And by God, it's going to be successful." It wasn't. And while the car lived on in pop culture, the people who built it paid the price. The DeLorean DMC-12 is immortal, but immortality comes at a cost that's never paid by the people who benefit most from the legend.